he was. But it was the Oakland Raiders who pulled the trigger, taking him in the 10th round with the 253rd overall pick. That same draft class saw future contributors like Preston Pearson and Randy Rasmussen go even later than Sly, which tells you how much buzz a 7-foot lineman generates, even before anyone knows if he can actually play. At 300 pounds, Sly was not just tall, he was genuinely rare for his era. There were not many 7-footers walking around outside of a basketball court, let alone strapping on shoulder pads and getting into a three-point stance. He played in all 8 games available to him during his rookie season as a reserve defensive tackle and never recorded an official tackle. But that was never really the point. When you are a literal 7 feet tall, just occupying space in the middle of a defensive line changes how offenses have to game plan around you. Sly's biggest moment came when the Raiders reached Super Bowl II in January 1968. He suited up as a reserve while Oakland lost to Vince Lombardi's Green Bay Packers. So somewhere in the archives of one of the most famous games in football history, there is a 7-foot giant standing on the sideline that almost nobody remembers. Sly never played another professional down after that season. His entire NFL career started and ended in 1967, 8 games and 0 recorded stats. But nearly 6 decades later, he still holds a record nobody has come close to touching. The league has produced 300-pound guards, 400-pound linemen, and receivers who can dunk a basketball, but it has never again rostered a player who stood a full 7 feet tall. Sly passed away in 1998 at just 54 years old, decades after that lone NFL season, but his height still shows up on every tallest players list the NFL publishes, and it probably will for a long time. Sly remains the only true 7-footer in league history, but he was not the last giant of that same era to leave a permanent mark on the sport. 2 years after Sly's rookie season, the Kansas City Chiefs drafted a 6'10" tight end named Morris Stroud, who had barely played organized football in his life. Stroud grew up in Miami and starred as a center and power forward on the basketball team at Clark Atlanta University, a historically black college in Georgia. He had almost no football experience when Chiefs head coach Hank Stram spent a 3rd-round pick, 76th overall, on him in the 1969 draft anyway, betting that the size alone was worth developing. Over 5 active NFL seasons, Stroud actually turned into a legitimate receiving threat, catching 54 passes for 977 yards and 7 touchdowns, averaging a ridiculous 18.1 yards every time the ball found his hands, numbers plenty of modern tight ends would be happy to sign up for. He was on the Chiefs roster that capped off the 1969 season by winning the AFL Championship game and then beating the Minnesota Vikings in Super Bowl IV that January, a title run that came during his very first season in the league. But Stroud's real legacy came on special teams, and it's the reason his name is still attached to an actual rule sitting in the NFL rulebook today. Kansas City started lining Stroud up directly under the goalposts on opposing field goal attempts, with one simple job: jump as high as he could and swat the ball out of the air right as it crossed the crossbar. At 6'10" with a massive wingspan, Stroud could reach kicks that were sailing just inches inside the uprights, batting away field goals that should have counted, and there was nothing in the rulebook stopping him. Opposing teams were furious, and the NFL eventually agreed with them, adopting a regulation that became known informally as the Stroud Rule, banning any player from leaping up to deflect a kick as it passes above the crossbar. More than 50 years later, that rule is still on the books, all because one man was too tall for the sport to keep up with him. Sly and Stroud belong to a different generation of giants entirely, but the modern NFL has produced plenty of its own. Right now, the tallest player wearing an NFL uniform is Dan Skipper of the Detroit Lions, standing 6'10", nearly closing the gap on Sly's mark from almost 60 years earlier. Undrafted out of Arkansas in 2017, despite starting 51 games with 47 consecutive starts and earning 2 All-SEC selections, Skipper bounced from the Cowboys, to the Broncos, to the Patriots, to the Texans, before finally sticking with the Lions for good. Part of the reason nobody drafted him was reportedly a chronic blood condition that showed up during his medical evaluations and scared teams off. Skipper spent years shuffling on and off practice squads, getting cut and re-signed so many times that during an episode of HBO's Hard Knocks, he broke down on camera after getting released, asking his coaches what more he could have done. That clip went viral instantly, because here was a 330-pound giant getting emotional in front of the cameras, and fans could not stop talking about it. A few weeks later, he started at guard, a position he had not played since his freshman year of college, and his head coach called him out by name for his performance in front of the whole locker room. In 2024, Skipper even caught his first career NFL touchdown, lining up at tight end and lumbering into the end zone, which is not something you see from a 330-pound offensive tackle very often. Along the way, he also picked up a Super Bowl ring with the New England Patriots during their Super Bowl Lee championship run. Skipper is proof that today's giant does not have to be a novelty act. He is a genuine starting NFL lineman who just happens to be built like a skyscraper, and after his playing days wound down, he stayed in Detroit as an offensive assistant on the Lions coaching staff, still the tallest man in the building even without pads on. Skipper might be the tallest player active today, but he is not even the heaviest. That title belongs to Trent Brown. Trent Brown stands 6'8" and has weighed as much as 380 pounds, making him one of the heaviest players to ever suit up in the league. Born in Bastrop, Texas, he took a strange path to get there, starting his college career at Georgia Military College before transferring to the University of Florida, where he became the biggest offensive lineman the Gators had fielded in over a decade. The San Francisco 49ers used a 7th-round pick, 244th overall, to draft him in 2015, and over the following decade he bounced from San Francisco to New England, to Las Vegas, back to New England, then to Cincinnati, and finally Houston. His weight has swung wildly the entire time. At one point he slimmed all the way down to 358 pounds, before ballooning back up past 380. His sheer size alone makes him one of the widest human beings to ever line up at left tackle, but teams keep signing him because he can genuinely move despite the mass. He won a Super Bowl ring with the Patriots during that same Super Bowl Lee title run, and made the Pro Bowl in 2019 during his first stint with the Raiders, which shows that unlike a lot of oversized athletes who get by purely on size, Brown actually has the feet and technique to go with the frame, a rare combination that has kept him employed by 5 different franchises across a decade in the league. As impressive as Skipper and Brown are, neither of their stories comes close to the giant who had never even touched a football before the NFL drafted him. Jordan Mailata is 6'8" and 365 pounds, and just a few years ago he had no idea what a down or a snap count even meant. He grew up in Sydney, Australia, playing rugby league for the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and by 2017 he was a promising 20-year-old prop who had just been offered a part-time contract instead of a full-time one. So he decided to gamble on a sport he had never played in his life, American football. His agent put together a highlight reel of his rugby tape and sent it to the NFL's International Player Pathway program, which brings international athletes over for a crash course in the sport. Within months, Mailata was training at IMG Academy in Florida, learning how to even put on football pads for the first time. His offensive line coach later said Mailata and another international prospect stood by a Gatorade cooler for a full minute, just staring at their cups, having no idea what to do during a normal water break. That is how little he knew about the sport he was about to be drafted into. And yet the Philadelphia Eagles traded up to select him anyway in the 7th round of the 2018 draft, with the 233rd overall pick. Before he had even proven he could play the position, Mailata went viral for a completely different reason, showing off a genuinely impressive singing voice in videos that Eagles fans could not stop sharing, which only added to the mystery of who exactly this giant was and whether he could actually help the team on Sundays. Mailata did not play a single snap his rookie year and spent the entire following season on injured reserve, still learning the position from scratch. He did not make his real NFL debut until 2020, 3 years after being drafted, and his first career start came out of nowhere, filling in for injured 9-time Pro Bowl left tackle Jason Peters in a Sunday night football game at San Francisco. Mailata held his own, did not allow a single sack, and helped the Eagles win. From there, the transformation was stunning. He was named a Pro Bowl alternate 3 straight years from 2022 to 2024, before finally breaking through. And by 2024, Mailata had become a second-team All-Pro left tackle and signed a 3-year, $66 million extension, protecting his quarterback's blind side at the highest level in football, a staggering leap for a man who had never seen a football up close before turning 20. Then in February 2025, Mailata started at left tackle and helped the Eagles blow out the Kansas City Chiefs 40-22 in Super Bowl likes, becoming